Hi, I thought I'd do a quick update. I was talking with my friend Sandra today about projections and how people project onto us, and of course, we project onto others. And it really is irrelevant which one we're doing because it's all the self, learning about the self. And, there's a lot of, my battery's going down here, so I'll do this quick. And it's like the people that come into our lives, and maybe we have something going on with them that we feel something they said or something they did kind of irritates us, and we might want to push them away. But really what we're looking at now, the higher you evolve and want to grow and know really the true soul, the authentic self, is that we don't want to push away parts of ourselves because we are mirroring into the world what we need to see about ourselves, as we all know. But this is more about when someone says something to us, and we found that we had personality types that didn't like that they misunderstood what we would say. And both of us in human design are projectors, and we have a certain lines that really we have a very direct way of sharing information. And someone else might think that's too harsh, or they might not think it was done kindly, even if we believe we said it in the most straightforward, kind way we could. And so it is interesting to see, because literally that person wouldn't be called into our aura or our energy if they weren't meant to hear it the way we had to deliver it. So that goes for us also. Someone wouldn't come into my life that I didn't need to hear it a certain way or have it presented a certain way. And therefore, it's not about pushing someone away, because when we push people away, what happens is we're pushing an aspect of ourselves away that we wanted to learn about, integrate, and really incorporate into our light. So it's not, and I'm not saying condone everybody that comes into your life, but if someone came and she gave me an example of how she said something about, someone said something to her, and she didn't feel it was anything to do with her. She was willing to take a look at it, but the energy wasn't there for her. And she kind of mentioned that the person wanted to argue, and they wanted, maybe have her do it her way. And there became this conflict. And so we're discussing about that, because I said, well, I've been learning to say things like, well, that's interesting, or that's an interesting perspective you have. Not denying it, not saying yes, no, whatever, but let them have their viewpoint. And for me, if I have a trigger inside of me, that's when I need to go, wow, okay, what's going on here? Or if I try to explain myself, which I'm learning not to explain myself, just holding the energy literally for them and say, that can be their reality, whatever they heard, because in that moment, that's what they needed to hear, even if it's not what you said. I mean, I remember reading the book, I've used this as an example before, reading The Prophet when I was 15 or 16, and thinking it was really profound, but then reading it at 20 and wondering how I missed the depth of it, and then reading it at 30 and wondering again, how could I not, seen what was really there. And I think in the ancient I Ching, the Tao Te Ching, that's the same way. You always see something in a different way. So when people share information with us, we're going to hear it in the way we need to hear it, even if it sounds derogatory, something negative, and it hurts your feelings, because you have to get to a point. And she goes, oh, I like this, what I had said. I don't have to make it right. And that's the thing. When we're misunderstood and like somebody says, well, you said this or you acted this way, it's not about me defending myself. It's about saying, I'm sorry you heard it that way, or not even, I don't like the word sorry. I guess because it seems like kind of an empty word. It's like, okay, I really get that you heard it that way, but that was not my intention. Would you like to know more about my intention? And maybe even then they can't understand it on whatever level of understanding they're at. So I'm learning I don't need to defend it, because I think that's one thing I did a lot in my life. Like someone misinterpreted even a look on my face. Like I remember when I was like 5 years old, and the little boy I thought was so cute on his scooter going flying down the street and fell off and skinned his knee. And I had some kind of grimace on my face, which was more like, oh my God, I could feel his little pain, you know. And he turned around at me and he looked, why are you smiling? You know, like you're happy I got hurt. And I remember being crushed even as a 5-year-old, because this little boy that I thought was the cutest thing on the planet, of course my view of the planet was quite small, misinterpreted what I'd said. And I remember how badly I felt. And I think that goes through adulthood, many of us, that when we're misunderstood or the contents we put something in is taken wrong. No, it's not. Because that person needed to hear it that way. They had to come to an understanding at some point in their life. Just like, you know, a situation that happened with a woman that I'd known years ago that I tried to help. I helped her get a house. I helped her do, you know, work on a book of mine so she would get the income, and on and on and on. And we separated through the years, and she became really distant and just little, you know, things once in a while, but really she was kind of out of my life. And then when I did another book, I thought maybe I could reach out to her and, you know, offer her to do something. Then I also found out that she really didn't have that program, and it would be jumping through some, you know, she'd have to get the program or try to learn it, and she was on a time crunch or something else. And I just said, no, I'm just going to go with the gal that I already have. I was just really trying to give her an opportunity to make some money. I thought it was a quick thing. I thought it was something she already knew. Instead of paying somebody else $350, I could give it to her. And instead it turned into this big thing that got turned around on me, because I finally realized, no, I didn't want her to buy a program. No, I didn't want her to learn it. I already had somebody that could do it, you know. And so then I got accused of all these things. I thought it was interesting. And then this person said, well, actually, I cut you out of my heart years ago when you sent me that email and blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, you know, it was really cruel and it really hurt me. And I'm thinking, what is she talking about? I never sent any cruel or mean email to her. And she went on and on. Yeah, and I remember I just said, I'm cutting her out of my heart. And I thought, you know what? That didn't hurt me, because I'm thinking, wow, all the things that I helped you with and you didn't even acknowledge them or see them, or giving money, your charity for some of your peace works you were doing. I thought, wow, this is interesting. So it was more like, this is fascinating. And I just let it go. And I just said, well, I'm really, really sorry. I had no intention of ever hurting you. I don't know what I possibly could have said that you would make a comment like this. And she actually had an email from about, I guess it would have been about 9 years ago. Who keeps emails? I just clear my box, you know. Anyway, and she sent it to me. And I read it. I had to read it like 4 times before I wrote back and said, I don't get where any cruelty or, I was being empathetic. I was saying, yeah, I can see in my life where I spend so much time helping other people and giving to their causes and giving to them, that I also don't, you know, I often don't take care of my own needs. And perhaps if we would both be better at that, we wouldn't find that we could have, you know, like once in a while being in these financial, going like, oh my God, what have I done, you know? And that's what I put in the email. Like, you know, I was empathizing and saying, yeah, maybe both of us better learn to, you know, take care of ourselves before we take care of everybody else. And so I said, I don't get it. And so she kind of backpedaled. And it was fascinating, because in the backpedaling, instead of her saying, you know what? Oh, you must have triggered something in me that I needed to see, maybe a truth that I needed to see within myself. And so instead, I just cut you out of my life because I didn't want to acknowledge that or deal with that or shift some of my ways. But instead, then she went on to something else. Like, well, I remember one time on one of my, you know, Facebook posts, you made a comment about this. And I went, you've got to be kidding. You know, it's like, so I realized I don't want people in my life anymore. And that's what I realized I had done. I had stopped attracting people that, I don't want to say unsafe, because really what it is when they show up in a certain way, what I'm seeing is my energy is not attracting certain people. And when I do, I usually catch it pretty quickly that it's just another finer lesson that I need to hear, such as, oh, it's not mine to fix. It's not mine to do. And even for myself, to hold that energy better, to learn to really master that ability to hold the energy. So when you get accused of something, or somebody says something about you that's untrue or even true, it's just hold the energy for them. And again, I've spoken on this before, but just when under attack, it's like, you don't need to defend. All you need to say is, well, I hear that, this is important to you, and this is what you're feeling, and thank you for sharing. Or just, acknowledging that is their feelings, but it doesn't mean you agree with it, right? So that's the thing that we have to remember. We don't have to agree with what they're saying, but we just hold the energy for them. So how can I say this in a better way? Because I'm kind of mumbling here, as you can see. It's again, just holding the energy for someone, and acknowledging them, and say, thank you for sharing, your feelings. Or I don't even like that, to be perfectly honest. It's like, what's the word I had before? And I just blanked out. I'm in Italy. What do you know? I'm on Italian time here. More of a acknowledging, and then saying, do I have to redo this whole thing? Because I just messed up my punchline at the end. Just like, thank you for sharing your feelings. That's it. Thank you for sharing your feelings. Or, just holding the space for them. But you don't need to defend yourself, and you will attract more and more people the more you get into that space. In other words, the more you embody that realization within yourself, that number one, you don't need to fix it for anyone. You don't need to explain yourself if somebody's accusing you of something that's not. You're just saying, that's an interesting perspective. That's the word I was trying to find. Interesting perspective you have, and holding it. And that's it. And that will probably drive them crazy. And they may go, well, what do you mean, an interesting perspective I have? And it's just like, well, I know that's what you must be feeling. And I'll sit with it if I get, maybe there's some feedback I might want to discover for myself. But right now I'm not really feeling it's mine. Or mine to do, but thank you for sharing. Doesn't mean in the future you might go, well, you know what, there was a little piece of that would really help me. So anyway, sorry, I'm mumbling on here, and I'm going to let you go, and sending much love and chat. Ending the meeting.